Her daughter wore the stolen gown like it was her birthright. Evelyn Sinclair, founder and forgotten architect, adjusted her janitor's collar in the Civic Center mirror. By nightfall, she'd toast with the same sponsors Lauren had deceived, wearing the initiative's legacy like perfume. The bylaws were still signed in Evelyn's ink. She wouldn't raise her voice. She'd raise the vault. And when her daughter reached for the crown, the chair beneath her would already be gone. Wait, before we go any further, I gotta ask, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. The marble steps of San Francisco's Civic Center caught the early morning light like polished bone. Evelyn Sinclair ascended them with the slow, regal precision of someone who'd walked this path 100 times but never once taken it for granted. Inside, the vaulted atrium echoed with hushed greetings and clipped heels. One of the junior hosts spotted her immediately and practically sprinted across the floor in kitten heels. "Mrs. Sinclair, welcome back," she gushed, cheeks flushed. "It's an honor, as always." Evelyn offered a small, composed smile. "The honor, dear, is consistency." Staffers nodded as she passed. The older ones knew her legacy. The younger ones just knew not to underestimate the woman whose name was still etched into the donor wing. She moved down the corridor to the dressing suites reserved for keynotes and founders. Suite 3B, right where it had always been. She entered alone, as she preferred. The room was immaculate, soft lighting, full-length mirrors, bottled still water, a vase of orchids she hadn't requested but didn't mind. She walked toward the garment rack without hurry, already envisioning the evening's entrance. But the rack was empty. Her hand hovered for a moment, then moved the single remaining item aside, something shapeless, polyester, and completely out of place. A janitor's uniform, dark gray, labeled "Property of City Maintenance," folded with exacting, deliberate care. Evelyn's gaze flicked to the tag at the collar. Permanent marker. F number Gala 23. She said nothing. She sat, slowly, on the edge of the small velvet bench and pressed one hand to her lap. A knock. The door opened before she could answer. Lauren swept in like the wind at the edge of a wild fire's miling wide, phone in hand, gown trailing like stormwater. Evelyn's gown. Silk taffeta in imperial garnet, hand-beaded neckline, bespoke bodice tapering into a cascading train-the-piece she'd commissioned 6 months ago from a retired designer in Piedmont, with a matching bolero and heels dyed to match. One of one. Lauren posed in it like it had always belonged to her. "Oh, good. You found your backup," Lauren said lightly, motioning to the uniform with a nod. "I figured this would be more authentic. Adds narrative texture. The press loves a little irony." Evelyn didn't respond. She didn't need to. Lauren walked to the mirror and adjusted the neckline with exaggerated elegance. "Rand Synergy, Mom. You always say the initiative is for working women. This just completes the story, don't you see?" From behind her, Naomi appeared in the doorway, silent. Her granddaughter looked smaller than usual in her black shift dress. Eyes rimmed with guilt, lips pressed thin. Evelyn caught her reflection in the mirror. Naomi wouldn't meet her eyes. Evelyn stood. She turned from them both, slowly, and walked to the mirror. Her fingers smoothed the front of the janitor's uniform once, then again, like sculpting dignity from polyester. The room was silent. Lauren fidgeted, checking her phone. "We've got media waiting. Don't be late, okay?" The door shut behind them. Evelyn remained still. 1 breath in, 2 out. Then she reached into her handbag and pulled out a simple gold pin Sinclair Women's Initiative, Year 1. She affixed it just above the uniform pocket. In the mirror, her reflection didn't look defeated. It looked like kindling. She tied the sleeves, rolled up the cuffs, and turned toward the door. Her heels clicked against the tile like punctuation. From down the hall, music began to swell. A burst of laughter echoed from the ballroom. Evelyn walked toward it not quickly, but with precise intention, as if she were headed not into humiliation, but into frame. Just outside the ballroom, Melanie caught sight of her and froze, mouth open in horror. Evelyn gave her a single, silent nod. Then she stepped into the light. And as the cameras turned capturing Lauren, twirling in someone else's gown, no one noticed the woman in uniform quietly noting every sponsor name on the press wall, like she was preparing for a final reckoning. The ballroom pulsed with curated elegant Cisaten drapery, crystal uplighting, and the unmistakable clink of donor champagne. A string quartet played a modern rendition of Fleetwood Mac's Rhiannon, almost drowned by the swarm of influencers live streaming their own arrival. At the far end of the floor, beneath gold foil Sinclair Women's Initiative arch, Lauren posed effortlessly. A cluster of photographers circled her like bees around sugared nectar. She lifted a crystal flute of champagne toward the lights. "To legacy," she said loudly, smiling just wide enough to suggest humility. That's when it happened. A caterer brushed past with a silver tray of hors d'oeuvres, motion too fast, floor too slick, angle too perfect. One heel caught the rug's fringe. A lurch, a wobble, a high-pitched gasp, and a full glass of red wine arced through the air. It hit the floor first, shattering. The wine followed, splashing out like watercolor onto marbleland directly across Lauren's gown. People froze. The cameras didn't. Dozens of flashbulbs lit up the moment Lauren gasped and stepped back in horror, inspecting the crimson splash blooming across the hem of the gown like a fresh wound. The caterer stammered an apology. Lauren waved him off, too stunned to speak. And that's when Evelyn stepped forward. No one had seen her standing near the curtain just off stage, just outside the spotlight. She didn't rush. She walked through the crowd with serene control, the janitor's uniform crisp and strangely dignified against the backdrop of diamonds and donor tags. Someone laughed nervously. Then she knelt. Not dramatically, not pointedly, just efficiently. She took a folded cloth from her pocket tucked in beside her. Sinclair Pinand began blotting the wine without looking up. Camera shutters clicked faster. Lauren's face twisted in disbelief. "Mother, what are you doing?" Evelyn didn't answer. She moved from the hem to the marble floor, cleaning with slow, practiced care. The cloth darkened with burgundy. Melanie appeared beside her a moment later, eyes wide, cheeks burning. "Ma'am, you don't have to," she began, crouching beside her. Evelyn handed her the soiled cloth. "Observe," she said calmly. "That's all." Then she stood and turned, slowly, taking in the press wall with deliberate eyes. Every logo, every name, every brand in bold Helvetica, the nonprofit sponsors, the personal backers, the corporate co-hosts. She didn't need to write them down. She didn't need to ask permission. Across the room, Councilman Jordan Locke detached himself from a conversation and approached, a hint of amusement tucked behind his politician's smile. "Evelyn," he said quietly, "you playing some long game here?" Her lips curled slightly. "Isn't it always?" He tilted his head. "Just tell me one thing, was this stunt yours or hers?" Evelyn didn't blink. "You'll know which of us planned it by who remembers it." He exhaled a chuckle. "Noted." The host's voice cut in over the ambient music. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats for our opening honors." Lauren, having dabbed away most of the wine with assistance from her publicist, climbed the stage with practiced grace. The red splash was nearly invisible under the lights, but Evelyn saw it. A bruise on borrowed silk. Lauren stepped to the podium, blinking against the flashes, then softened her voice for effect. "I dedicate this moment to trailblazers like my mother wherever she is," she said with a tremble of mock sincerity. "She taught me that grace isn't about how you rise, but how you carry others with you." There was polite applause. A few standing phones. Someone murmured "beautiful" under their breath. From the back of the room, Evelyn stood perfectly still. She did not clap. Her eyes flicked once to Naomi. The girl sat stiffly beside the assistant director, expression tight. Then, without moving her lips, she mouthed something only Evelyn could read. "I'm sorry." Evelyn gave no reaction. She turned and walked to the edge of the ballroom, where an oversized sponsor board stood like a monument to misplaced loyalty. She traced one manicured finger down the edge of it, then paused on a name. Felicia King. Her fingertip rested there for a heartbeat longer than the rest. Then she smiled just once and walked away. The storm didn't break until Evelyn was home. Rain smeared across the bay windows in long diagonal streaks, like someone painting the skyline in slow strokes. The quiet of her Pacific Heights townhome was a different kind of thunder one, filled with old wood creaks, a ticking mantel clock, and the distant hum of traffic fading underwater. She kicked off her heels with precision, set her bag down on the antique credenza, and walked straight to the study. No lights, just memory guiding her steps. The second drawer of the walnut filing cabinet slid open with a soft click, From the very back, beneath old foundation charters and Gala floor plans, she withdrew a thick black folder. It was sealed with a brass clasp and stamped in her own handwriting, Gala Assets Private. She laid it flat on the desk, unfastened the clasp, and opened it slowly. Inside were layers of documents, sponsorship contracts, original venue permits, branding licenses, video rights agreements. Every signature bore her name. Every logo cross-referenced her LLC, Sinclair Forward, listed as the primary asset holder since the foundation's relaunch in 2013. Evelyn ran one finger down the notarized sponsor agreement from Felicia King's firm, then tapped a box in the bottom corner. Clause 9.3. Termination for breach of attribution. 3 simple lines. If Evelyn Sinclair is not credited in all major press or public representation, payment obligations may be rescinded. The dress, the speech, the wherever she is. Lauren hadn't just crossed a line. She'd detonated the bridge. A soft knock. Melanie entered the study like she always did, quietly, respectfully, knowing Evelyn didn't need permission but still preferred to offer it. I made copies, she said, holding a small USB in one hand. Encrypted backups. Every contract still shows ownership under Sinclair Forward. We've got full traceability, no gray zones. Evelyn took the drive without looking. Good. Melanie hesitated. Are you sure you want to escalate this? We could freeze Lauren out quietly, slow and subtle. Evelyn's eyes remained on the papers. Subtlety has its place, but not after public theater. Melanie nodded. Understood. That evening, the doorbell rang once then again, softer. It was Naomi. She stood in the doorway, damp from the rain, hair pulled back into a haphazard bun. Her mascara had faintly smudged beneath her eyes, like truth fighting through performance. I didn't know she was going to do that, Naomi said, voice hollow. Not like that. Evelyn stepped aside. Come in. They sat in the living room, opposite the fireplace. Naomi held a teacup she didn't drink from. She said it was part of the narrative, Naomi murmured. That if she wore your dress and told your story her way, it would be stronger. More commercial. Evelyn folded her hands. And what did you say? Naomi blinked down. I said nothing. Silence wrapped the room like gauze. I think she's gone too far, Naomi finally whispered. I think she thinks this is her legacy now. Evelyn rose, walked to the side table, and retrieved a slim gray laptop. She didn't take it, Evelyn said evenly. She just lit the fuse. She opened the laptop, fingers moving swiftly. Melanie, she called. Her assistant entered seconds later, tablet in hand. I want real-time tracking on every social post using the Gala's hashtags, facial recognition scans, repost analytics, influencer contracts. Build a heat map of where the footage landed and who's capitalizing. Melanie nodded. Already started. Good, Evelyn said, eyes never leaving the screen. Then we proceed. Naomi watched her, half in awe, half in something softer, something like regret. What are you going to do? She asked. Evelyn smiled, barely. I'm going to remind them who built the damn stage. The next morning, Melanie sat at the conference table with 2 laptops open. On one screen, the Foundation's master control panel. On the other, the bylaws. Evelyn stood over her shoulder. Remove Lauren's admin access, Evelyn said. Scrub her credentials from the byline structure. I want her off the digital record by noon. Melanie typed fast. Should I add a redirect? No, Evelyn said. Let the silence feel deliberate. She turned and walked back toward her study. The USB drive in her pocket felt like a blade. Behind her, Melanie hit enter. And just like that, Lauren Sinclair vanished from the foundation that had once made her famous. The fluorescent lights in the San Francisco Municipal Archives buzzed faintly, echoing off pale concrete walls that hadn't been repainted since the late 80s. Rows of compact shelving stretched out like quiet soldiers, each drawer marked in precise black type. Evelyn moved through them with the slow surety of someone who knew exactly what she was looking for and exactly how deep it had been buried. The clerk at the front desk had tried to stop her. Ma'am, these files are sealed City Council restricted access. Evelyn had offered a thin smile and handed over a laminated trustee badge with 2 signatures and a date from 2010. 5 minutes later, She was inside. Vault 6, Box 47C, Sinclair Women's Initiative, Charter and Amendments. The file was thick. She flipped past glossy press brochures, attendance rosters from galas gone by, and donor verification forms. Then her fingers paused on a single tri-folded page, marked with a blue ribbon seal and ink darker than the rest. Addendum to Sponsorship Authority Clause 12. All termination or renegotiation rights relating to brand partnerships and media licensing for the initiative Gala shall remain with the founder, Evelyn Sinclair, in perpetuity, regardless of operational delegation. At the bottom, 2 signatures. One hers, the other, Jordan Locke. Evelyn closed the file, slipped it into the black envelope she'd brought, and walked out without looking back. Jordan Locke was waiting for her in the garden lounge at the Presidio Club, his tie loosened and phone face down. "I figure, Deed, you'd show up eventually," he said, gesturing toward the chair across from him. "Didn't think it'd be so soon." Evelyn set the envelope on the table, her gloved hands still. "The initiative is mine. Legally, structurally, politically." Jordan let out a small sigh, rubbing his temple. "Evelyn, I'm not here for an apology," she said coolly. "I'm here for a favor, the kind you owe." That silenced him. 10 years ago, Evelyn had lobbied tirelessly quietly to suppress a campaign finance scandal that would have ended his career before it began. The committee had never asked how the footage disappeared. He had. Jordan reached for his glass. "You want her off the liaison roster. I want her title vacated by council vote. Immediately. She doesn't represent the foundation. She doesn't speak for women. You know that'll rattle more than her Felicia King has her hand in half the boardrooms." Evelyn's voice didn't rise, but it cut clean. "Then let her rattle. You have until Monday." That Friday, Lauren stood at a press podium set up in front of the Civic Center rotunda, flanked by 3 influencers and 2 junior staffers. Her voice rang with calculated charm. "The Sinclair Women's Initiative stands at the forefront of equity and style," she declared. "As public liaison, I'm honored to lead this new chapter of expansion." Flashes fired. Reporters scribbled. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know yet, was that council members had already begun receiving a motion drafted by Jordan Locke, stripping her of all public-facing city liaison privileges due to non-compliance with original foundation terms. Naomi sat curled up on Evelyn's tufted reading chair that night, Evelyn across from her, a manila folder open on her lap. "I hate how she keeps saying we built this, like it wasn't Grandma who did every inch of it," Naomi said, flipping through her phone. Evelyn watched her carefully. "Why are you telling me this now?" Naomi hesitated. "Because I've been gathering screenshots of what she's been saying, of who she's been tagging. I don't think she realizes what she's exposed." Evelyn nodded once. "You'll need to protect what comes next." Naomi's brows furrowed. "Protect who?" Evelyn rose and walked to her desk. From the bottom drawer, she withdrew a red leather-bound document binder marked Foundation Trustees, Current. She opened to the last page, took out a pen, and wrote, "Naomi Sinclair, Silent Trustee, effective immediately." Naomi stared at her. "Wait, is this real?" Evelyn didn't smile. Legacy doesn't always come with a stage. Sometimes it starts in the shadows. 3 hours later, Evelyn received an encrypted email from Melanie. Subject: Red Flags, Lauren's Financial Press Kit. Attached: a spreadsheet of sponsored posts, mislabeled as Official Foundation Messaging. Evelyn tapped the file open, then tapped record on her private journal log. The rooftop of the Avena Grand shimmered like the crown of a city that thought it could buy elegance. Champagne pyramids, LED-lit ice sculptures, and silver trays of caviar sat beneath a canopy of drone-lit branding. Number Sinclair. Next pulsed against the clouds in timed intervals. Lauren stood at the center of it all, wrapped in a metallic sheath dress and ambition. She didn't know the trap had already been triggered. Influencers rotated in front of step and repeat banners, name-dropping the initiative into every story post. PR reps adjusted angles. The DJ played synth-heavy versions of empowerment anthems, none older than 3 years. Felicia King leaned on a brass railing, scanning the scene with the boredom of someone allergic to tackiness. She sipped twice from her flute, then checked her phone. Nothing unusual. Lauren's voice rang out above the music. Let's raise a glass to every woman building the future and refusing to wait for permission. Cheers followed. Lauren turned toward the media section with practiced timing. That's when the elevator chimed. No one expected the doors to open. The event was invitation only, coded entry. But they did. And Evelyn Sinclair stepped out. Not in a janitor's uniform. Not with shame clinging to her like shadow. She wore a tailored gray pantsuit so sharply pressed it could have sliced marble, silver combs tucked into her swept-back hair, and a single crimson silk pocket square the same hue as the gown Lauren had stolen days earlier. Silence didn't fall. It cracked. The DJ missed his cue. Phones lifted. Voices whispered her name. Lauren turned and froze. What is she? Evelyn didn't stop. She walked through the crowd with the grace of a monarch inspecting foreign soil, her heels echoing faintly on the concrete tiles. Faces turned. A few sponsors instinctively stood straighter. She reached the center of the rooftop, picked up an untouched flute of champagne from a nearby tray, and lifted it. To temporary illusions, she said. Voice calm but cool enough to slice through the speakers. A few guests laughed uncertainly. Others looked toward Lauren, waiting for context. At that moment, half a dozen phones vibrated. Anonymous alerts lit up across inboxes. Subject: urgent review. Clause 9.3. Body: non. Attributed usage of likeness, branding, or legacy may constitute breach. Verify current affiliation before continued support. Asterisk Sinclair Forward Compliance Team. Felicia's phone pinged. She read it once, then again. Then she moved. She approached Lauren slowly, deliberately. Did you clear naming rights with Evelyn for this? She asked, holding up her phone. Lauren blinked. What? No, this is my branch of the... You used Sinclair Initiative logos, footage, audio quotes, without legal attribution? Lauren glanced around. Guests were watching now. I mean, it's part of the same, she stammered. My name is Sinclair. It's all the same. Evelyn, now sipping from her glass, offered a serene smile. No, she said, quietly but clearly. It isn't. Felicia's eyes narrowed. If you didn't clear this, our firm has to suspend partnership immediately. You may have just misrepresented your entire pitch deck. Lauren's face flushed. That's not. She's just... Evelyn took one slow step forward. You're confusing legacy with permission, she said evenly. And unfortunately, neither are inherited without cost. More phones lit up. A ripple moved through the rooftop soft murmurs, glances towards screens, whispered questions. Lauren's smile cracked, then vanished entirely. Felicia handed her a napkin from a server's tray. You might want to start wiping this down. We can't be associated with contract fraud. Lauren stood stunned as Felicia walked away. Evelyn turned without ceremony. She didn't need to stay and watch the unraveling. Naomi stood near the edge, watching the scene unfold with wide, conflicted eyes. When Evelyn passed her, she whispered, You didn't even raise your voice. Evelyn responded, almost like breath. Whispers carry farther at the top. Naomi turned toward her mother, surrounded, uncertain, unsupported, and back to her grandmother, who disappeared into the elevator without ever looking back. The email came at 8:16 a.m. on Monday. It was short, clipped, and designed for maximum impact. Effective immediately. All payments, promotional ties, and media endorsements associated with Miss Lauren Sinclair are suspended pending contractual review. Felicia King, President, Apex Plus Partners. Within 20 minutes, Lauren's publicist forwarded it along with her resignation. I can't legally represent someone in breach. Lauren read both messages 3 times, jaw tightening with each pass. Her phone vibrated again, then again. Texts from collaborators. A branding manager asking for clarification. A makeup sponsor requesting to pause an upcoming collaboration. Outside her loft window, the Market Street cable car dinged in ironic harmony. She hurled the phone across the room. It hit the whitewashed wall with a plastic crunch. Upstairs, Naomi heard the crash. She didn't move. She stared at her laptop, where Evelyn's message sat glowing in bold. I need one truth from you. One. Not a confession, not a list, just the truth. Naomi's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed, At the Gala pre-brief, Mom laughed with Felicia and said, You were old PR furniture. That the board didn't want your name, just your assets. She said they had to wait for you to die out like fax machines. She hit send, then sat still. No reply came. But Evelyn didn't need to reply. She was already busy. In her study, the desk lamp cast a soft amber glow over her hands as they worked sorting printed screenshots, tabbed financial reports, time-stamped video stills. Each document slid neatly into labeled folders. Mislabeled media. Unauthorized likeness. Sponsorship misuse. Timeline manipulation. The last folder had no label. Just a post-it. Stagecraft. Melanie sat across from her, tapping on her tablet. I've cross-referenced all Lauren's event posts with copyright tags. 83% reuse footage licensed to Sinclair Forward. No citations. Evelyn didn't look up. Good. Keep going. I want dates, reposts, and press headlines sorted by reach. She pulled a new folder from her drawer, embossed on the front. Gala Unmasked Dossier Prep. Meanwhile, Lauren took to social media like a woman cornered and convinced it was a stage. A 3-minute Instagram video posted that afternoon opened with harsh light, the camera too close. She wore a silky robe and dramatic eyeliner. The caption read, "The truth they don't want you to know." She spoke fast, rambling at points. Let's be real. Some people build legacy by holding the mic hostage. My mother has always had trouble letting others rise, especially if they shine brighter. She laughed, but her eyes didn't match. Some people confuse tradition with relevance. And I love her, but we're in a new era now. And gatekeeping isn't grace. She ended with a tired smile. Don't believe the noise. Believe what you've seen. But the comments weren't what she expected. This is messy. You literally wore her dress. Not the generational trauma going live. Didn't she found the whole thing? She watched the view count stall. Across the city, Evelyn didn't open the video. She didn't need to. Instead, she uploaded a single image to her private cloud folder. Lauren's post, time, stamped and cross-logged with her contract clauses. Melanie glanced at the screen. Do we go public? Evelyn shook her head. Not yet. She opened a separate file and began drafting the table of contents. Gala Unmasked. A record of inheritance misused. Founders' rights. Contractual violations. The illusion of influence. Legacy versus branding. Restoring the stage. Melanie looked up. What's the goal? Evelyn placed her hands on the desk. To remove the costume. That evening, Naomi received a new text from Evelyn. Trust is earned, but truth still matters. Thank you. She stared at it, then screenshot the message, saving it into a folder on her own drive titled Future Proof. The bell above the atelier door gave a soft, old-fashioned chime as Evelyn stepped in from the fog. Clementine's Couture had no neon signage, no digital check-in kiosk, just a modest bronze plate, lace-curtained windows, and the subtle scent of cedarwood and pressed muslin. The kind of place that didn't exist on Yelp but had never once been out of business. Clementine herself looked up from her sewing table without surprise. I thought you might come, she said softly, rising with the elegance of someone who still believed in fitting gowns by candlelight. Evelyn smiled faintly. You always said we'd finish what we started. Clementine led her into the back studio walls, lined with aged sketchpads and mannequins in various states of drape. Near the back, protected by a plastic garment sleeve and wrapped in lavender tissue, was a bolt of garnet silk that matched the gown Evelyn had designed to mark the initiative's 15th year. The gown Lauren had paraded as if it were hers. Clementine opened a flat drawer and removed a thin folder, placing it on the cutting table. Inside, high-resolution photos of the original fittings. Evelyn mid-turn, half smiling in the mirror, swatches with handwritten annotations in her script. Design notes in Clementine's meticulous cursive. Client request. Neckline to reflect. 1,980. One portrait. Beneath it all, a notarized receipt and proof of commission. Evelyn gently touched one of the photos. Would you sign an affidavit confirming authorship and commission? Clementine didn't hesitate. I already printed one. I figured you'd need it soon. By evening, the file was in Melanie's hands. Alongside it, a curated folder of selected images, formatted for press distribution. Evelyn reviewed each with cool precision. Melanie hovered nearby. Are we framing this as an exposé? Evelyn shook her head. Number, let them come to the conclusion. Overt statements are forgettable. Implied truth echoes longer. The next morning, a spread appeared in the Chronicle's lifestyle section. The tapestry unravels. How a forgotten founder sewed San Francisco's most powerful stage. Beneath it, a two-page feature of Evelyn in archival gala gowns, accompanied by never-before-seen photos of her early work with the initiative. Quotes from former board members. A sidebar timeline, Clementine's signed affidavit. The article didn't attack Lauren by name, but it didn't have to. The closing paragraph lingered with weight. Legacy, in the Sinclair Initiative, was never borrowed. It was sewn by hand and by heart, and by a woman who never needed the spotlight to illuminate the work. Naomi sat with her phone pressed to her lap, heart pounding. Then she did it. With one deep breath, she uploaded the article's link directly to Lauren's campaign website into the updates section. Lauren rarely checked herself. Then she added a caption in plain, untagged text. Before there was a stage, there was a seamstress and a mother. She hit publish. No one saw her do it. But within 30 minutes, the post was trending. Not in the glitzy influencer space, but among civic organizers, local historians, and initiative alumni. Lauren didn't see it until late afternoon. She opened her analytics app and stared. Her follower graph had dipped, not crashed, not collapsed, just slid. A quiet exit. She clicked into comments. So, not your dress after all? Why pretend it's your legacy if the founder's still alive? Respectfully, you're not Evelyn. This just got awkward fast. She scrolled faster, face tightening. No sponsors had called, but none had returned her emails either. Silence, she was learning, could hum louder than applause. Across town, Evelyn stood in her upstairs hallway, gazing at a photo Naomi had mailed her the year she turned 70. Grandmother and granddaughter laughing in a corner booth, untouched dessert between them. Melanie approached with a fresh envelope. Requests are starting to come in, she said, handing it over. Media roundtables, donor spotlights, even an invite for a documentary panel. Evelyn didn't reach for it. Schedule nothing, she said quietly. Melanie hesitated. Nothing? Evelyn finally turned. Not until she makes her next move. The Civic Center was empty. Not quiet empty. A kind of vacancy that echoed louder than sound. Evelyn stepped through the backstage service entrance, her heels clicking softly on the polished floor. The scent of fresh wax still lingered from the cleanup crews. Gone were the gala banners, the champagne stains, the eager handlers. What remained was silence and mirrors. The mirror room had once been an experimental set piece for the gala's 5th anniversary. Lauren had pushed to retire it after year 8, said it made things look dated. But Evelyn had quietly kept it on the blueprint, tucked behind velvet partitions, repurposed as overflow space. Now, it was hers, alone. The floor-to-ceiling panels caught Evelyn from every angle. She stood at the center and watched her own reflection in 30 silent versions. She ran a hand slowly along the curtain's edge, her breath visible in the cool air. "This is where I first stood," she murmured. Melanie stood nearby, holding a compact projector and a black laptop bag. "The very first gala?" Evelyn nodded. "We didn't have real lighting, or even catering. We had coffee urns, rented chairs, and a lot of women who hadn't been in the same room before. But they listened, and they stayed." She looked at the mirrored reflection in front of her, tired, regal, deliberate. Melanie powered on the projector. The mirrors blinked briefly with light. Then came a paused video frame. Lauren at the podium, gown pristine, voice soft and rehearsed. Evelyn motioned to play it. "I proudly accept this recognition as the driving force behind the Sinclair Women's Initiative," Lauren said on screen. "My vision and my team has carried this legacy into its most modern chapter." Evelyn didn't flinch, but Melanie saw the way her jaw barely moved. "She didn't even name you," Melanie said. "She named what she wanted to be." They stood in silence as the video looped, ending with Lauren's signature air kiss to the crowd. Evelyn turned and reached into her coat pocket, pulling out a small USB. "Open a blank timeline," she said. "Title it, 15 Years of the Sinclair Legacy. I'll curate the clips." They moved to the side wall where a makeshift workstation had been set up. Melanie unzipped the laptop and opened video editing software. Evelyn inserted the drive. On it, archival footage, women hugging in hallways, volunteers repainting a shelter wall, Evelyn speaking at folding tables, laughing in break rooms, guiding teenagers into job fairs. No logos, no stage lights, just work. Naomi appeared 20 minutes later, hoodie pulled over her head, headphones around her neck. "You came," Evelyn said. "I had to see it." Melanie hit spacebar. The reel began to play. Naomi watched in silence. Her mother never appeared, not once. "These are the years nobody posted about," she whispered. "Exactly," Evelyn said. Naomi stepped forward. "Let me narrate. Don't put titles or graphics. Just me, voiceover. One take. Like I'm telling someone the story who never heard it." Melanie blinked. "That's strong." Evelyn nodded. "Do it." They spent the next hour trimming, syncing, scoring. Naomi's voice was soft, sometimes raw, occasionally pausing. Not for effect, but for emotion. She spoke names Lauren had never said. Described programs Lauren didn't know existed. Laughed gently in one section, nearly broke in another. And by the end, the silent montage wasn't silent anymore. It breathed. At 2:04 a.m., Naomi's phone buzzed. Incoming call. Mom. She looked at the screen, let it vibrate, watched it go dark, then flipped the phone face down. "She knows we're doing this," Naomi said. Evelyn didn't look up from her laptop. Let her. Outside, the fog was thick against the city's glass towers, the kind of night that erased reflections. Inside, Evelyn pressed save. The file's name blinked softly. Sinclair Unfiltered. By 9 a.m., the complaint was filed. The city auditor's office didn't ask questions not out loud. Evelyn's reputation in civic channels was both respected and feared. The paperwork was clean, the language unassailable. Subject: misuse of foundation resources, unauthorized image licensing, and public misrepresentation. Filed by Evelyn Sinclair. Entity: Sinclair Forward LLC. Evidence attached: 47 pages, 3 digital files, 1 notarized financial audit. The clerk skimmed the top page, glanced at the signature, and murmured, "Understood." The complaint wouldn't stay internal for long. By 3 p.m., 2 sponsors had already issued public statements. "We were unaware of the misattribution of branding and founder rights in recent media. Our team is reevaluating all partnerships tied to the Sinclair Women's Initiative until further notice." Lauren read both on her phone while standing. Melanie powered on the projector. The mirrors blinked briefly with light. Then came a paused video frame. Lauren at the podium, gown pristine, voice soft and rehearsed. Evelyn motioned to play it. "I proudly accept this recognition as the driving force behind the Sinclair Women's Initiative," Lauren said on screen. "My vision and my team has carried this legacy into its most modern chapter." Evelyn didn't flinch, but Melanie saw the way her jaw barely moved. "She didn't even name you," Melanie said. "She named what she wanted to be." They stood in silence as the video looped, ending with Lauren's signature air kiss to the crowd. Evelyn turned and reached into her coat pocket, pulling out a small USB. "Open a blank timeline," she said. "Title it, 15 Years of the Sinclair Legacy. I'll curate the clips." They moved to the side wall where a makeshift workstation had been set up. Melanie unzipped the laptop and opened video editing software. Evelyn inserted the drive. On it, archival footage, women hugging in hallways, volunteers repainting a shelter wall, Evelyn speaking at folding tables, laughing in break rooms, guiding teenagers into job fairs. No logos, no stage lights, just work. Naomi appeared 20 minutes later, hoodie pulled over her head, headphones around her neck. "You came," Evelyn said. "I had to see it." Melanie hit spacebar. The reel began to play. Naomi watched in silence. Her mother never appeared, not once. "These are the years nobody posted about," she whispered. "Exactly," Evelyn said. Naomi stepped forward. "Let me narrate. Don't put titles or graphics. Just me, voiceover. One take. Like I'm telling someone the story who never heard it." Melanie blinked. "That's strong." Evelyn nodded. "Do it." They spent the next hour trimming, syncing, scoring. Naomi's voice was soft, sometimes raw occasionally, pausing not for effect, but for emotion. She spoke names Lauren had never said. Described programs Lauren didn't know existed. Laughed gently in one section, nearly broke in another. And by the end, The silent montage wasn't silent anymore. It breathed. At 2:04 a.m., Naomi's phone buzzed. Incoming call. My mom. She looked at the screen, let it vibrate, watched it go dark, then flipped the phone face down. She knows we're doing this, Naomi said. Evelyn didn't look up from her laptop. Let her. Outside, the fog was thick against the city's glass towers, the kind of night that erased reflections. Inside, Evelyn pressed save. The file's name blinked softly. Sinclair Unfiltered. By 9 a.m., the complaint was filed. The city auditor's office didn't ask questions not out loud. Evelyn's reputation in civic channels was both respected and feared. The paperwork was clean, the language unassailable. Subject: misuse of foundation resources, unauthorized image licensing, and public misrepresentation. Filed by Evelyn Sinclair. Entity: Sinclair Forward LLC. Evidence attached: 47 pages, 3 digital files, 1 notarized financial audit. The clerk skimmed the top page, glanced at the signature, and murmured, "Understood." The complaint wouldn't stay internal for long. By 3 p.m., 2 sponsors had already issued public statements. We were unaware of the misattribution of branding and founder rights in recent media. Our team is reevaluating all partnerships tied to the Sinclair Women's Initiative until further notice. Lauren read both on her phone while standing in front of a vanity ring light, mid-makeup tutorial. The eyeliner never got finished. By early evening, the initiative's group chat-silent for days buzzed back to life. A staffer dropped a screenshot. City Watch exclusive. Whistleblower complaint. Filed by Evelyn Sinclair. Accompanied by a photo of Evelyn, dignified and clear-eyed, walking down the City Hall steps with a black folder under one arm. Naomi saw it too. She closed the chat and headed down the stairs of her mother's loft. Lauren was on the couch, glass of wine in hand, television on mute. Her laptop lay open beside her, blinking with unanswered emails. Naomi didn't ease in. "Did you really use Grandma's accounts to pay for your campaign rebranding?" Lauren didn't look up. "That money was mine in spirit." "In spirit?" "I built this version of the initiative," Lauren snapped, slamming her glass down. "The reach, the image, the growth. None of it would exist if I hadn't modernized her dusty blueprint." "You mean, dressed up in her work and called it yours?" Lauren stood. "She doesn't know how to lead in this era. She's the past, Naomi." Naomi held her ground. "Then why did you steal from it?" There was a beat, and then Lauren's mask slipped. "She was going to hand it to you, wasn't she?" She spat. "That's what this is about. The silent trustee role. The stupid montage. You're her second chance. The good Sinclair. And I'm the warning." Naomi's voice was low, deadly, steady. "You said it yourself. She built this. You marketed it." Lauren barked a bitter laugh. "Everything should have been mine. To begin with." Naomi didn't argue. She simply reached into her back pocket and pulled out a flash drive. "I wasn't sure I'd ever use this," she said quietly, "but I think it's time." Lauren's face paled. "What is that?" "A voice memo. Gala week. You, drunk, laughing with Felicia about how donors were just vanity-addicted dinosaurs. That's private. Number, it was in the green room. My phone was recording." Naomi turned and walked out without another word. By 11 p.m., the file had been uploaded anonymously, but cleverly placed, not to gossip blogs, not to tabloids, to the initiative's own alumni network, captioned simply, "Transparency belongs to everyone." The fallout was swift. By morning, a board-wide emergency vote had been called. By lunchtime, it was unanimous. Lauren Sinclair was removed from the board of the Sinclair Women's Initiative, effective immediately. An internal memo followed. "Due to breach of trust and reputational harm, Miss Sinclair will no longer represent or be affiliated with future Gala events. All associated accounts, logins, and privileges have been revoked." Lauren's name was scrubbed from the site within hours, and from every Gala credential thereafter. Across town, Evelyn sat in her study, watching the slow fade of her daughter's digital legacy. Melanie brought in tea but said nothing. Naomi's text came in at dusk. "I did it. The recording. It's out." Evelyn responded after a pause. Then the silence around her finally broke. The invitation arrived with no fanfareno PR rollout, no influencer pre-hype, just embossed ivory cardstock, hand-addressed, bearing Evelyn Sinclair's seal. An evening of quiet impact. A private benefit for community women's shelters. Location: the Marlowe Atrium. Attire: come as you contribute. By dusk, the Marlowe was full guests, in silk blazers beside women in denim jackets, retired donors brushing shoulders with shelter directors. The entry hall had no velvet rope, no flashing cameras, just candlelight, curated stillness, and a note at every place setting. Legacy is not what you keep. It's what you give without needing credit. In the corner, Melanie coordinated the logistics, her tablet alive with bids flowing in. One guest circled a sculpture titled Fractured Horizon, whispering, "That's a Sylvia Drake original. That's her pre-fire era." What they didn't realize was who had donated it. Evelyn stood near the center display calm, unreadable, wearing a simple navy sheath dress and a silver brooch shaped like an open hand. She'd given everything without ceremony. A first-edition Gala journal with handwritten annotations, the velvet ribbon from the inaugural event's lectern, the original Sinclair pin from year one. All open for bid, all documented, none insured. Whispers began to circulate by the second hour. She's rebuilding something. Without needing headlines, she's rewriting the story in real time. Naomi took the stage just after dessert. No script, no slides, just a mic and a steady breath. She looked out across the room, eyes pausing briefly on Evelyn, who offered the smallest nod. "I used to think strength looked like being loudest," Naomi began. "Or first, or viral. But I've learned it also looks like someone who kept receipts when no one believed she'd need them. Someone who let silence speak louder than shame." She paused, her voice thickening. "My grandmother built this initiative to give power to women who weren't allowed to ask for it. I've watched her get erased, and I've watched her refuse to disappear." A murmur of agreement rolled through the crowd. Naomi closed with a smile that trembled only slightly. "This auction isn't just a fundraiser, it's a restoration. And tonight, we begin again with the truth intact." Thunderous applause. Outside, in the cold just beyond the portico, Lauren stood behind the velvet barrier, alone. She wore black, this time sharp, expensive, hollow. The young security guard didn't even glance twice as he shook his head. "Not on the list," he said. "You'll need to step back." "I was the initiative," she hissed. He didn't argue. Inside, Evelyn heard the rustle at the door. She didn't look at first, but then just Onsish turned her head across the room, toward the tall glass entrance. Through the frost-framed pane, their eyes met. Lauren, rigid, fuming, eyes sharp with disbelief. Evelyn poised, silent, her expression not smug simply finished. She held the gaze for 3 long seconds, then turned away. Back to her guests, back to the podium, back to the room that now belonged to the truth. The auction screen ticked higher behind her, another bid placed on a photo titled Stage Left, 2008, a shot of Evelyn adjusting a mic for a young woman too nervous to speak. Naomi stepped to her side, whispering, "Some of the original sponsors just pledged recurring support." Evelyn took the mic. For every woman who was told her best years were behind her, for every story someone else tried to edit, tonight, we're giving that narrative back to its rightful owner. The room rose in a standing ovation. Outside, Lauren stood frozen as guests passed her on the way out, smiling, energized, carrying gift bags marked with a single phrase, "Given, not taken." She tried one last time reaching for her phone, dialing Naomi. No answer. She turned to leave. Behind her, the lights of the Marlowe glowed warm, steady, unreachable. It arrived in a deep green envelope, heavy, wax-sealed, hand-delivered by Evelyn's estate attorney, with the kind of quiet reverence usually reserved for final testaments. "I wasn't instructed to open it," he said, placing it gently on her desk, "just to give it to you when this particular set of circumstances came to pass." Evelyn studied the seal. A deep maroon share late husband's personal crest, not the foundation's. She waited until the attorney left. Then she slid it open with a letter opener shaped like a swan. Inside, 3 pages of parchment, all in Harold Sinclair's blocky, patient script. "If you're reading this," the letter began, "then the initiative has been challenged from within, and I know who you're dealing with." Her breath caught. She sat down. "Lauren's fire was always brilliant, Evelyn, but it burned without direction. I tried to believe she'd mature into purpose. I see now she never learned how to build without borrowing. If she ever compromises the integrity of what you've built, if she ever tries to brand it as hers, this letter activates the provision we discussed in '09. Evelyn flipped to the second page. There, stapled neatly, was a copy of the trust amendment they'd filed but never spoken of again. Clause 14. Any named Sinclair descendant who knowingly harms or repurposes the Foundation's legacy without consent shall forfeit inheritance rights to associated intellectual or financial property. This clause is binding, irrevocable, and immediately executable. Harold had signed it, so had Evelyn, so had their lawyer. She stared at the date, the 3rd of March, 2009. Before the initiative's 5th year, before Lauren ever stepped on a stage. The last page was shorter. I love our daughter, but I trust your judgment. If the time comes, protect the work. Let legacy outlast blood. She read the final line 3 times. Then she folded the pages back with slow precision, slipped them into a fresh envelope, and walked them to her personal fireproof safe. "Melanie," she said from the doorway, "call Jennifer. Have her file an enforcement copy with the estate attorney's office. No digital scans." Understood. 10 minutes later, Melanie sat at the Foundation terminal, logging into the public bylaws page. She scrolled to the trustees section. Under Emeritus Founders, Evelyn's name. Under Current Operating Board, Naomi Sinclair. Under Previous Representatives, a single strike through entry. Lauren Sinclair. Revoked by Legacy Clause. The 14th of July. Melanie exhaled softly and hit save. The change pulsed live in seconds. Across the study, Naomi had just finished reading the letter. She didn't speak for a long time. Her eyes stayed fixed on the phrase, "if she ever compromises the integrity." When she finally looked up, her face was pale, quietly shattered. "He knew," she said, voice cracking. Even back then, he saw it coming. Evelyn didn't reply. She simply stepped forward and wrapped an arm around her granddaughter. Neither woman had ever been prone to displays of emotion. But in that moment, something broke evidently, cleanly. Naomi cried into her grandmother's shoulder, silent, shaking tears. Evelyn held firm. Not fragile, just anchored. "I don't know what I am in all this," Naomi whispered. Evelyn touched her cheek, lifting her chin. "You are the correction." That night, Naomi opened her laptop and created a new folder. Future Initiative, Phase 1. Inside it, she dragged 3 files. The Gala montage, narrated and uncut. A copy of the bylaws update. A photo of Harold's handwritten clause. Then she added one last note to the folder. When in doubt, follow the letter. He left a map. She saved it, encrypted it, and closed the lid. Downstairs, Evelyn sat at her desk, sipping black tea. Her wedding photo sat beside the fireproof safe. She looked at it once, then leaned back, eyes closed. Lauren had always wanted the spotlight, but the story, the real story, was never hers to command. It began with a clip. A grainy, overlit video of Lauren seated in a white chair framed by monstera leaves, speaking with forced composure. Her voice was calm, her expression rehearsed. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she said to the camera. But visionaries are rarely understood in their own time. The post was hashtagged number Gala Legacy and uploaded to all her platforms simultaneously. It trended for exactly 42 minutes. Then the responses started. Former staff members stitched videos onto hers, calmly listing contradictions. She didn't attend the shelter rebuilds. She skipped every planning session after. 2021. She wanted her name embroidered into the tablecloths. Vendors shared screenshots contracts with Evelyn's LLC, not Lauren's. She never paid us. She insisted we brand the event with her initials. She asked us to Photoshop Evelyn out of last year's promo. Then came the sponsors. 3 quietly revoked future collabs. One posted a single sentence. "We support truth, not entitlement." By noon, Lauren's video had more thumbs down than views. Evelyn didn't comment. She didn't share. She didn't even log in. She sat in the sunroom with a copy of The Papered City, sipping coffee while Naomi scrolled quietly beside her. "You're not even curious?" Naomi asked. Evelyn turned a page. "Public tantrums are not part of my syllabus." That's when Melanie entered with a tablet in hand. "They want an interview," she said. "Full length, long form. The San Francisco Record. Print and digital. Evelyn didn't look up. Everyone wants the real story now. They're calling it The Flood, Melanie added, eyes flicking toward Naomi. Silence lingered. Tell them I'll do it, Evelyn finally said, but only if Naomi sits beside me. Naomi's head snapped up. What? Evelyn met her gaze. It's not a transfer of power. It's a witnessing. 3 days later, they arrived together, 2 generations, side by side in neutral tones and unflinching posture. The record's photographer shot them not in front of a step and repeat, but beneath the initiative's original banner, hand-stitched in 2008. Lift, teach, refuse, silence. The interview wasn't combative. It didn't need to be. Evelyn spoke slowly, deliberately. When asked about the initiative's early years, Naomi occasionally added context, correcting dates, clarifying intent. They talked about what it meant to be erased not just by digital branding, but by familial betrayal. They talked about legacy not as a trophy, but as a responsibility. They did not mention Lauren by name. Evelyn did, however, allow one final quote. Authenticity doesn't require an audience, just an archive. I've kept both, Naomi added, more softly. The crown never really left her head. It was just hidden behind better lighting. The article dropped on a Sunday morning. Front page layout, bold serif headline. The Gala Queen reclaims her crown. Photos from the interview, interspersed with archival images. Evelyn at podiums, Naomi handing out flyers in college, even a candid moment of Harold pushing Naomi on a park swing. The subheading read, How One Woman Built an Empire, Lost Her Name, and Got Both Back Without Ever Raising Her Voice. It went viral within 6 hours. Donors forwarded it to each other in email threads marked, Read This. Journalists dissected the narrative arc. Nonprofits used quotes from it to rebrand their own missions. Lauren didn't respond publicly, but a private story was captured in a blurry screenshot 2 days later. Her social accounts went dark. Biofields cleared. Brand links gone. Just one line remained. Formerly Sinclair? Naomi didn't gloat. Evelyn didn't comment. Instead, they walked together through the empty initiative hallway that night, stopping before the Foundation's timeline mural. Evelyn reached out and touched a small, overlooked panel. Year 1, 2008. A quote in script. We start with hands, not headlines. Naomi looked at her. What happens now? Evelyn's smile didn't reach her lips, but her eyes warmed. Now, she said, we rebuild not from scratch, from truth. Behind them, a team was preparing the next Gala media booth. But this time, there was no mirrored wall, just a glass plaque. Sinclair Initiative, founded by Evelyn Sinclair, renewed by transparency, run by integrity. The podium stood bare beneath a sky of soft gray, framed by wildflowers and string lights strung between iron beams. There was no branded step and repeat, no hashtags glowing in LEDs, just a cloth banner pinned with brass studs. The Sinclair Women's Forum, founded in legacy, focused on now. Evelyn stood behind the mic in a sand-colored suit, hands steady, eyes scanning the quiet rows of chairs facing her. I once believed the name was enough, she began, voice even, that the legacy alone would guide its path. But names can be borrowed, rewritten, even weaponized. She let the silence hang a beat. That's why today, we rename not to forget what came before, but to protect what must come next. Scattered applause grew steadily. This forum isn't a continuation, Evelyn said. It's a reclamation. Behind her, Naomi and Melanie flanked the Statue Quo silhouettes shaped by wildly different years, now standing shoulder to shoulder. Evelyn turned to them. Naomi Sinclair will lead our youth and outreach development with full creative discretion. Her programs will decide what the forum becomes for the next generation. Naomi didn't speak, only nodded, jaw firm, eyes glinting with unshed conviction. And Melanie Klein, Evelyn continued, will serve as the forum's managing director, overseeing all operations, partnerships, and expansion strategy. Melanie blinked once, stunned. Evelyn, I didn't. You earned it, Evelyn cut in softly. With silence and fire, the crowd stood to clap. After the ceremony, they gathered in the restored east wing of the initiative's headquarters, now fitted with skylights and open workshop tables. Naomi ran her hand across a wooden bench etched with dozens of names. Girls, mentors, volunteers, survivors, all carved over the years. In the corner, a small notary team sat waiting by a briefcase. Evelyn stepped forward and placed two thick envelopes on the table. These are the deeds and documents for the Sinclair estate. Effective immediately. It's being liquidated and endowed into a self-sustaining trust. Naomi inhaled sharply. All of it? All of it, Evelyn said. It'll fund the forum's work for the next 20 years, maybe longer. Melanie opened one folder, brows rising. This includes the Marin property. It's just a house, Evelyn said gently. Legacy isn't square footage, it's traction. They signed the papers together, ink drying on the next chapter. That evening, Naomi remained behind, sorting archival files from the old initiative cabinet. Some were misfiled, others yellowing at the edges. Near the back, tucked behind laminated press clippings and board meeting minutes, she found a small velvet envelope marked only with a year, 1963. She opened it carefully. Inside, a certificate from the Women's Reconstruction Guild of California naming Rosalind Hart Sinclair Evelyn's mother as the originator of a donor match endowment. Initial fund value, $4,800. Current, $1.3 million, untouched and automatically reinvested for decades. At the bottom, in faded ink, to my daughter Evelyn if she ever needs a bridge. Let this be it. Naomi stared at it, then turned, slowly. Evelyn was standing in the doorway, one hand in her pocket, the other holding a cup of chamomile tea. You knew, Naomi said. Evelyn's smile was small, quiet. I suspected, she replied. But I never needed it until now. Naomi held the certificate to her chest like a heartbeat. Why didn't you ever use it? Because this was never about me, Evelyn said. It was about what comes after. She walked in and laid a gentle hand on Naomi's shoulder. You come from women who prepare for storms decades before the clouds ever gather. Naomi swallowed. She believed in you. She believed in us, Evelyn corrected. She just left the proof where it wouldn't be found until it mattered. They stood in silence, the overhead lights dimming to match the dusk outside. On the back wall, the forum's mission statement had been freshly painted in gold. Rebuild, reclaim, reimagine. Naomi glanced down at the dusty old envelope still open on the table. Should we archive this? Evelyn looked at her. No, she said quietly. We use it. And somewhere in the city's core beneath concrete and bureaucracy and everything meant to dull memory, 3 generations of preparation moved quietly into motion. The gates creaked open with the slow ache of rust and neglect. Evelyn stepped out of the car in a slate-gray trench, wind curling at the hem. The house sat still and proud on its San Mateo bluff, its terracotta roofline catching the last amber slices of afternoon light. But the pride had dulled. Paint peeled along the shutters. A realtor's placard leaned slightly in the lawn. Its lettering faded from a week of fog. Naomi stood beside her, holding a clipboard. Are you going to stop it? Evelyn didn't answer right away. She looked up at the house she'd once signed over to her daughter as a gift. No ceremony, no strings just. A title transfer on Lauren's 30th birthday. A promise then, build something here. Lauren had. Then mortgaged it. Then refinanced. Then defaulted. No, Evelyn said finally, voice even. But I will visit. Naomi said nothing more, just followed her up the stone walkway. Inside, the air smelled faintly of forgotten citrus-like, a home that had once known marmalade mornings, but hadn't seen a kitchen light turned on in weeks. The foyer's chandelier still caught light just so. The hardwood stairs still creaked on the 3rd tread. Evelyn walked slowly through the house not with nostalgia, but with audit. In the parlor, she found the marble-topped table she'd given Lauren after the Paris summit. Lauren had painted over it in chalk white, hiding the Italian veining. Evelyn ran a hand across it but didn't speak. In the study, a plaque from the initiative's 8th year lay face down beneath a stack of unopened mail. Evelyn lifted it, brushed off a thin film of dust, and tucked it into her tote. Naomi trailed her, silent. Upstairs, the hallway gallery remained a wall of framed family photos, but Evelyn's image had been removed from the central frame, replaced with a blurred shot of Lauren beside a step-and-repeat backdrop. Naomi stepped forward, unhooked the frame beside it, and carefully moved it to the center. A photo of Evelyn, wearing the original garnet gown, her arm around Harold. Naomi, maybe 8, peeking shyly behind her legs. She placed it back on the wall without a word. Evelyn paused at the doorway to what had once been Lauren's childhood bedroom now, a stark, white yoga space, unused. "I don't know what I expected," Naomi said quietly. Evelyn turned. "You expected her to keep the story whole." Naomi nodded. "She never wanted the story," Evelyn added. "She wanted the stage." Downstairs, Evelyn moved into the kitchen. The ceramic canisters from her mother's house were still on the counterpeach, flour, sugar all sealed, unused. She took only one, the one labeled flour, worn at the edges. Inside, tucked beneath the lining, she found a brittle recipe card. Rosalind's lemon bread. For Sundays. She folded it carefully, slid it into her coat pocket. Then, on the marble counter, she took out a pen and a plain index card. She wrote slowly, clearly. No flourish. Lesson. Legacy is earned. She placed it beside the ceramic jar. "I'll send movers for the items we're reclaiming," Evelyn said as they stood at the threshold. Naomi glanced at her. "You're not staying for the auction?" Evelyn looked once more through the glass door, into a home that had been entrusted and squandered. "No," she said calmly. "Let the walls remember her before the walls forget." They stepped outside, the door falling shut behind them. 3 days later, the house went to public auction. There was no news coverage, no community interest beyond the realtors, and one local investor looking to flip it. The final bid came in low, the crowd thin. Evelyn stayed home that morning. She gardened. She took tea on the back porch. She filed the lemon bread recipe into a small metal box with other handwritten legacies. Naomi did attend, quietly, anonymously. Just to be sure, it ended as it should. When the gavel fell, she sent her grandmother a text. "It's done." The reply came back 15 minutes later. "Good. Now we begin again." The lights came up on a room that hadn't existed a year ago. The Sinclair Women's Forum opened in the vaulted glass atrium of the Civic Renaissance Centerance, a bureaucratic museum piece, now rebuilt with open floor plans and sunlight corridors. Every seat was filled. Dozens stood along the back wall, craning for a glimpse of the podium. A wall of archival portraits ran down the East Wing snapshots of women at food drives, shelter builds, clinic fundraisers, Evelyn in black and white, adjusting a mic. Naomi at 19, holding a clipboard outside a teen center. No captions, just a plaque above it. Built, not borrowed. Naomi stood center stage. No teleprompter, no notes. She wore a charcoal blazer over a white t-shirt that simply read, "Reclaim." "For years," she began, "I thought legacy was about bloodlines, family, trees, last names on plaques, but I was wrong." She paused. Let it land. "It's about backbone, about showing up when no one's clapping, about being the one who fixes the leak no one noticed while someone else took the mic." The room held still. "My grandmother didn't build an empire. She patched holes, lifted voices, opened locked room sand, left the door open behind her." A quiet rustle of applause began, soft and rising. "So here's our new mission," Naomi said. "We don't crown the loudest. We invest in the ones already doing the work. Thunder now." Backstage, Evelyn stood in the shadows, holding the creased letter Harold had written, the one that had, in the end, protected everything. She didn't look at it, just felt its weight in her hand. Melanie stood beside her, earpiece pulled out, eyes misted. "She's becoming you," Melanie whispered. Evelyn's smile was slow, certain. "No," she said. "She's becoming better." On stage, Naomi raised one arm in acknowledgement, then turned slightly as Jordan Locke City Council chair and longtime initiative skeptic approached the podium. He extended a check. The crowd hushed. "This forum," he said, "has demonstrated more transparency, accountability, and impact in its pilot year than most civic programs see in a decade. We'd be foolish not to stand behind it." He handed the envelope to Naomi. "On behalf of the city, we're proud to partner fully funded for the next 5 years." Flashbulbs caught the moment, but Naomi looked past them, to the shadowed wings where Evelyn stood in profile. Their eyes met. No bow, no nod, just recognition. The gala that followed wasn't a gala at all. Just food trucks, string lights, community booths, no red carpet, no tiered badges. By midnight, the forum's social accounts had quadrupled in followers. Not influencers, Not celebrities. Organizers, social workers, teachers. Somewhere on the other side of the country, in a small coastal town no one tracked, Lauren Sinclair shut the last lid on the last suitcase and walked away from a two-bedroom rental that had never been hers. Her name wouldn't appear in the city ledger again. No one noticed her leave, and no one said her name again. Back in San Francisco, Naomi joined Evelyn by the empty stage as crews packed cables and folded chairs. "You're not going to say I told you so?" Naomi asked. Evelyn shook her head. "You were never told. You were trusted." Naomi handed her something, a small velvet box. Evelyn opened it. Inside, her original Sinclair Initiative pin, restored and replated in rose gold. Beneath it, a new engraving. "Found, then forward." "I think we're ready," Naomi said. Evelyn looked out over the now dark room. "We were always ready." They stood together, two shadows under the overhead lights, neither clinging to the mic, just the space, the silence, the road ahead. And when the crew asked if they wanted anything else packed, Evelyn simply shook her head. "They handed me a mop," she said quietly, then turned toward the exit, the letter still folded in her palm. "I left them the keys to an empire and walked away clean."